here's a question.
This is from Taylor Swift.
Let's not get it twisted. I'm down with Taylor, dude. I enjoy her music. I mean, I don't know about you.
I think
22.
Taylor Swift is a full genius. How can we
Genius
shout
might
out
be
our
pushing
friend?
it a little bit.
What do we do? Give us a name and some stuff, because this is also a thing.
Yeah,
Yes, this isn't
it's a
just us.
thing.
Just isn't just about us, okay, guys?
He says he doesn't know his name is Michael.
He doesn't have a title for his thing. Okay, fine. Shout out to Michael, not wiser, specifically not wiser, for the cocktail bar.
If you come on by in the next 15 minutes.
Yeah. Even though this will come out weeks later, if you make it by in the next 15 minutes, lifetime, we'll give you one of these 4 options plus more. Because
true
wow,
professional.
what a show! I got the blood and sand tonight. It's Scotch, orange, sweet vermouth, and some cherry, and whatever's happening.
I had a nice
caramely.
penicillin. It's really my go-to.
I have some
Go-to
throat
cocktail.
coat tea in a Starbucks mug.
Yeah, he got a surprise, and he does
I'm
not
on
like to be
fire,
surprised.
dude. There's nothing I like less than a surprise.
Yes, that's a fact.
Michael Weiser, what was your
These are
cocktail
facts.
choice tonight?
Blood and sand.
Yeah, it's a nice cocktail.
Scotch,
really happy with it.
orange, sweet vermouth, sherry.
Not sherry,
Not sherry,
but cherry.
Sherry.
Hey guys, welcome to another live podcast with Cat and
Thanks for
Cloud.
having me.
Thanks for having us.
I already told Andre I was going to dedicate this episode to him. So
Andre?
this episode's dedicated to Andre, roastery team leader,
Yeah, dude.
Making
Local
things
player,
happen.
neighborhood pimp,
king of the playground.
major smash bro. We'll have a Smash Burger pop-up coming soon to a
Is
Cat and Cloud near you on the west side of Santa Cruz, California.
Are we starting with listener mail? I thought we were going to start with Hot Goss.
You thought we were in charge.
Hot
You
Goss.
can start with Hot Goss.
Is
Hot
Hot
Goss?
Goss on there?
No, well, I kind of wanted to get the Hot Goss SCA.
oh yeah.
Oh, the sweet Goss.
Well, you were saying you had a list of things that you took notes of at SCA.
I have
True
stuff.
or false?
That's not specifically ringing a bell in the way you're saying it, but I
He
believe
got
I
a
have
list
stuff.
of phone numbers.
You said there's like a bunch. You were
There's,
like,
I have a bunch of.
You're really
I think there's a bunch
excited.
of topics that we could cover in this podcast that would be helpful for the world.
that's a good thing.
Specialty coffee and
Like to help.
And then also obviously we have perspectives on it, but twofold, like actually professionally helping and hot takes as well.
Right. And then I was like, oh, we should make a list of those. And you're like, I got it in my
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, in my mind usually.
I
So-
felt like it was something
No,
else.
I mean I
in your
have
stories or in
I've
your
got some
soap operas.
I've got some of that. Yeah, I mean that's some of the oscillations stuff that was some takeaways from a bit of a debate hangout thing that was put on by a group of awesome individuals. But there was the Hot Goss. I mean, we should talk about data collection and budgeting and forecasting and
Talk
coffee
about Hot
and
Goss right there.
roasting,
Data collection.
yeah, dude, and
Finances.
metrics and all sorts of things in
Oh.
their own right and in their own avenues, as well as consumer stuff.
Consumer stuff.
Consumer tastes.
Like how to pay it. Yeah, just paying attention and hospitality and approach, and there's a lot of different things we could. I think that'd be like straight up like let's log some stuff and talk about them in a podcast.
Mm.
But I mean, if you want to talk if you have questions about SCA, I can hot goss it in that way. That was
Oh,
fun.
no. I don't have questions. I was just,
Hot goss.
I just wanted to get inside your mind. What are the Truby takeaways?
beautiful
from
mind.
It was
SCA.
The
Mhm.
takeaway is it was one of the best SCAs I've been to. Maybe because the event space was awesome and open. And there's a lot of light. Maybe part of it. You didn't feel like you were in like a dark space. Epic weather. Chicago's awesome. And I think maybe everybody's like over fear of COVID. So I think maybe it was just like a lightness to the whole thing. It was really relaxed and a lot of energy. Plus I hadn't been there since 2019. So there's a reminder that I'm really somebody, dude. No,
You're
it was
like,
it was
we
cool to see a
haven't
lot of
seen
friends.
Jer in 10 years.
10 years.
At
Where did he
least 10
go?
years. Where do you come
He's
from?
back.
Where did you go? Yeah, it was fun to make coffee for people. I also like doing that, as it turns out.
Mm.
You made a little blend for the people? Or
Single
I guess you
origins
just
and blends.
Yeah,
I
you
personally
roasted
only
some
pulled
coffee
single
for
origins.
the people?
Mm-hmm. But we did create the blend. It was fun to go back and have like one of the engineers who helped create the Strata X, who's not a barista. He was pulling that coffee, and I got to come back and try it, and it was tasting banger based on him following recipes. That felt cool. And our team did a great job and had a lot of fun. Rolling with Dulce is amazing.
Yeah,
'Cause
Dulce is the best.
She breaks out, yeah, and she goes hard in the paint. You put on a little bit of Bad Bunny, and then she turns into a whole different person in a good way.
Yeah, and she's just super intentional in what she wants to do and get out of it and how
Mhm.
she represents. Like she's, yeah.
It was good. Yeah, I mean, it's SCA. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
So no brain teasers, huh? No brain melters. No
I mean, we could
revelations.
get into
don't have to.
deeper
I
conversations
know I'm
in the
poking you
future
a little bit.
around processing and what guests really want versus what we want as an industry. We can get into roast levels and what we think we love versus where we came from and what is happening now and how we think it'll be received and how helpful it is for our industry or unhelpful. We can get into a lot of fun things. And we have a bunch of awesome coffee to try from SCA, actually, that I'd like, including green samples from Carlos Trujillo's daughter, which she brought to me at the Strata X machine.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was super fun, too.
Hot dog.
Hot dog.
There we go.
Positively overwhelming.
That sounds good. What? I want to know more about this debate, though. Sorry, I just got to.
Which
Let's
part?
go.
Well,
There was a debate on co-fermentation. Is that what you mean?
yeah. It just seemed like it was a lot of
It was fun.
conversation, and it feels like anaerobic co-fermentation is like this flavor of the day thing right
Sure.
now, and I'm kind of wondering how many people actually like it versus how many people think they're supposed to like it versus is it just a small amount of people making noise about it, or what were kind of
I mean, at the
people's
event,
thoughts?
at the actual event, it was majority of the coffees had something going on that people were showcasing.
yeah.
Maybe I could maybe be argued that the word majority is like slightly out of line there, but
Well,
it was highly talked about. There was processing on processing.
but
on
did you
processing.
find? So I mean, were there also a lot of people from outside the U.S. there at all, or was it?
Sure. I mean, it's global expo, so yeah, tons.
right. Because it's like I've always found at Origin that sometimes it's some of the buyers from outside of the U.S. that really value kind of that type of
Right.
processing.
Australia,
higher,
Japan, Korea.
Australia, Germany, some parts
yeah.
of Europe.
Yeah.
They really value that type of processing a bit higher than
Sure.
maybe we do.
I feel like that was one of the arguments that I put on the table as well when we were in the things. I mean, I had no skin in the game. It was just the whole thing started. And again, it's a little bit of an unfair. It's a tough sell when you're trying to do a debate live in a club. And you have, I don't know, like I think it's 12 minutes or something like that total or less. I could be
Oh,
right.
the whole debate was 12 minutes?
Yeah, so there was the part
so-
arguing washed, the part arguing processed. However, this is the other thing too that wasn't really clear. Co-fermented could mean we added cinnamon and cherries to the thing,
Please
right?
don't.
Yeah.
Sure, but it could also have just meant anaerobic style too. Like nobody spoke specifically to like differentiating that versus a natural and so on and so forth. So like there was a great start, you know, what's the dude? Dear Coffee, I Love You guy, and I'm forgetting his name offhand. He started with this really great start to, you know, clean coffees and caring about the process and the things that we've all talked about our whole life. But then he kind of summed it up to like all these processes taste the same, which is tough because in some regards that's true. But then if you're also talking about co-fermentation, it's not true at all.
Yeah, I don't
Because
think
cherries
it's
and
true at
cinnamon and
all.
all that stuff is like not true, which is whatever. And then sum the whole thing up with, and you just need to pay farmers more. And it's like, if you put the pay farmers more stamp on it, that's not the argument either way. So it kind of like, it tipped the whole thing into a
Right,
place
because we
where,
like all want to pay.
Right,
Well,
for
you're
it.
not
so then
really
Wash Ben
arguing
Kaminsky
for
steps
or
in.
against
It's
not
the
an argument.
processing
Totally.
method.
So,
it's like
like-
a complete. It's like you wiggled your way in there, and you're like, also,
it was going really good, but then like you turned right, and that's just like where the whole or whatever, we'll call it left because that's what they typically say. You turn left right out of there, and you're like boom, and do the mic drop on that statement, and then it goes over to Ben Kaminsky, and he
what
says
did
what he
Kaminsky
says.
have to say?
It was well, I mean, when you get kind of derailed with a start like that, it's like, well, yeah, I also agree farmers should be paid more, and then he was arguing for washed, and he did. If he did the standard, if from what I remember, because it wasn't as. He just felt happy and nice about it. Just, hey, yeah, washed coffee's clean, and like I agree, we should pay farmers more, and the quality's there, and you can taste nuance, and so on and so forth. It was not. It felt
wasn't
to me
like a
derailed
negative,
from the beginning.
Right, it wasn't like putting down process. He was more just embracing.
I mean, he was just
Nuance and washed.
yeah, and he likes
Yeah.
washed coffees
And
because a lot of us
terroir
do,
and stuff,
and totally. And then Kyle Ramage basically was just the context was don't yuck anybody's yum. Like if people like it, there's a place for it on a menu, and the concept of bringing people in the specialty, the same concept that we've used, which is true, and somebody can identify that it's different. That's good, so I can trust specialty a little bit and begin my journey. Is just what he had to say, and then it was back to the other side, and it kind of just back and forth in the same, and then. But it was always this. But again, yes, I agree. We should pay the farmers more, and it just kind of felt like that was the overshadowed portion of the story. And then because it's just such an open topic, I was like, well, we're not really talking about like what our relationships with farmers and what they want to do or don't want to do. Are we supporting? There's just like so much to that conversation that you
that's
can't
like,
get into there.
It's
And so it's like, if you're
pretty
going to
complex
try to have like a live debate, it just didn't work. So that's all I said. I was just like, that's all I said. It was an unhelpful debate. That's what I said. And then they were like, unhelpful. I'm like, yeah, it was unhelpful. And it doesn't mean it was the people were lame or that it wasn't
No
brave
bad
and it was
intention
super
or
cool.
anything.
No,
Yeah,
like, I didn't
yeah.
feel bad at all, because I think that they were cool for getting up on stage and getting after it. But if you're going to do something like that in a time frame, you have to be pretty intentional and almost like pregame each side about what you're going to talk about a little bit, right? Even though it's a debate, you have to give like a little bit of a heads up, because you have such a short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, 3 people.
It's like,
So
3 on each
minutes.
side, I believe, and then we'll
3
call
on
it
each
12
side
minutes,
and
like
12
3 minutes
minutes
each or something to
That's
that effect.
wild.
Like
That's
I'm
super
slightly
fast.
Yeah, so it's tough, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, so if somebody were like hear the sentiment that started the whole thing and be like, yeah, okay, this is really, really great, don't say this last part. And again, that's whatever, me nitpicking. It would have led, I think, the whole conversation in a different direction.
Yeah.
And if that was like
just in
the
a
dropper,
a more focused way,
Yeah.
right?
But it did start a really interesting plethora of conversations and perspectives from other people. And I think that, to me, is the best part of it anyway. And conversation's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching your clip, and then I was reading some of
Stuff.
the comments, and then just got in, and
It's interesting.
it's always intriguing to me
Yeah.
because it really depends on what you want to talk about. Because you couldn't say, this is where it inspired me to write a little something, but it's like, you couldn't say something like anaerobic co-fermentation or even naturally processed coffee or whatever is good or bad,
Right.
without saying what your intention with the coffee is.
Totally.
So
And just a start, right?
Right. And it's like, taste is super subjective. So on one end, where Kyle's saying don't yuck anybody's yum, it's like, yeah, like you have your own taste buds. You're allowed to like whatever you want to like.
Absolutely.
And there's no point in me saying you can't like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't have some sort of objective quality standard, we can't really have productive conversations about what quality is.
Right.
So it's the same thing like at a cupping table with a bunch of new hires. Someone might point to this one coffee and be like, that tastes like peaches.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not lying. Like they think it does, but they're also not correct. Like,
yeah.
no, this is like a dark roasted coffee from Brazil. This is like all chocolate and
Yeah.
peanut
That's pretty
butter.
much,
Like, you know,
it's just pretty much not there.
you know, you can't have whatever opinion you want to have in that particular. You can have it for yourself,
Sure.
but you can't be like, oh yeah, I'm a Q grader. This tastes like jelly beans, and it
Right. When there's like
completely
a
doesn't.
standard that you're
Right.
like grading.
You have to have
against,
some sort
right?
of objectivity in something that's highly subjective. So
point.
it's like, what is the point of the debate, and what do we mean by quality?
Well, and the original concept was, is it good for the industry, or maybe
Mm.
damaging was the word. That's what I'm saying. So then if you go there and you're like, pay them more, it's like, none of it really fed that in any sort of through line in the conversation. You know, it's almost like it needed the mediator to be like, but it's good or bad for the industry in your opinion because, you know, ...
Right.
And that, anyway, again, it's not even, I'm not even saying it to diss on anybody. I was just,
That doesn't sound like you're dissing on anybody at all.
Yeah, I mean, or even necessarily to be critical. It's an interesting concept. And the anal retentive in me is like, well, you're not even really talking about what you said you're going to talk about, I guess, in that capacity,
Yeah.
right? And I totally agree. It's really hard and borderline impossible for us, even now with this new processing style and all of the variation, for the most part, to really even find a way to calibrate, because everybody's doing it differently at every origin anyway. I mean, we could technically with a cupping score sheet and a Q grader. I'm wondering, even, this is a great question for me. I don't have the answer. How will a Q grader in the future, or even now, score coffees like that?
Yeah, like where does the ferment, like the amount of
I
ferment?
genuinely don't know. And
hit
like
on the
yeah, Trish
on
is
the
a Q
scale.
grader actually. Maybe we should talk to her, or I mean, so is Dulce. So
Yeah,
I mean, but
you'd have an opinion.
are we? The question that comes to my mind is like, are we actually at a place where we need to evolve and add a section for that if this is going to be a trend that sticks with us? Because my gut feeling is it's not. I mean, that's hard. We have naturally processed coffee, so in that capacity, like, I think there's a way to score it, but it is a new way of tasting and looking at coffees.
It's definitely, what do you say? I mean, you could theoretically score it on the same
Sure.
score sheet.
It just never would score as high as a washed coffee, right?
Yeah.
Ever, ever, ever.
Right.
So that's just something that lives in the world.
Right. And then the question that we're really, well, one of the questions that we could ask is, does that matter?
Sure.
Are we buying solely based on that number? And in a lot of cases, no, we're not. You know, if you look at a menu and you want to curate a menu with a diverse taste experience,
yeah,
it's not going to be all 90 plus wash coffees from,
sure,
super high elevation. You're going to have some naturally processed coffees on there. You might even have some, like, I don't even want to say lower quality, but I mean, they would cup lower. But
you're going to get into a debate because the cost for the producer, right, is generally going to be higher for like the anaerobic coffee versus like a wash processed coffee.
Like it costs producers more to make that,
exactly.
Which is one of my arguments
right?
too.
So then
do you guys know this?
Right. So
well, right. So that's what I'm saying. So you've got a higher cost of production for a coffee that scores less, but does the lower score actually matter, or are we just filling a market demand? Which is, I want something that's interesting and fun, and it's irrelevant whether it scores 82, 88, or 91.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because the fact that it's scoring a 91 is not the thing that makes the average consumer say, yes, I want that 91.
Right. And it's like how many
Absolutely.
of like 4,000 coffee roasters in the U.S. are like using the score sheet and buying according to a score sheet? Like, I'm gonna argue not a lot, and they're just
think
buying.
You're probably right.
They're just buying what they like.
Right. Which is why the quality discussion, which I'm kind of saying what you're saying, it's like, what are we actually talking about?
It's really
here?
impossible. Almost.
And you might think like, oh man, different roasters have different needs. We have different desires for different menus, so it might be almost a moot point in some way.
I mean, where I ended up getting to with one person, and we were agreeing, I'm like, at the end of the day, like, I got no skin in the game. If you want to sell all these kind of coffees and that's like what you want to be, the numbers are pretty much going to say it for you. Like, are your coffees going long? Are you able to go through them? Are you able to sell them as whole bean, not just when you serve them to people in your cafe? And is your cafe busy? And I'm like, whatever that is your truth. Like,
right.
That's it. So you can do whatever you'd like. If I'm going to put a bet on something, if your company is mostly doing this, you may not be having as easy of a time as some other companies. I think you might have a more challenging time in business. And if you're not, awesome. Like, that means you're doing something right. And there's no reason I should care either way. Like, I want you to win either way. So, like, if I'm wrong, kudos. What I'm experiencing is a lot of, wow, that's super crazy. I can't believe you're right. It tastes like all this stuff you talked about, wild fruits and purples. Not for me, though, I get it, and I totally am stoked on this experience. That was awesome. I'm going to buy this one, though. And that's just my experience. So,
yeah,
agreed.
There's so many different ways to be successful.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just a tough conversation, too, if you talk about, like, paying farmers more. And then there's the concept of bringing a farmer who has, call it a 79-point coffee I really want to break into specialty. So they dry process, natural, whatever, or they anaerobic, and they bring that coffee up just to the 82 point, and now it's in specialty. And now they can break the ice, and they're getting there. And that's a whole different argument that I think is an argument maybe for it. That's like, great, now I've got this income that I didn't have, and now I can kind of clean up my farm, pick better, do all these other things next season. And that's just a different portion of the argument that isn't considered a lot of the time. Maybe people don't know that or talk about it, blah, blah, so on and so forth. And you can just go down the rabbit hole, which I found very interesting.
It's a kind of a fun rabbit hole to go down.
Totally agree.
Because some of the things that sound obvious maybe aren't as obvious as they would seem, or aren't as easy as they would seem. And we were kind of having a little bit of this discussion the other day where it's pretty much every single barista you've ever talked to has said, pay farmers more.
Yeah.
So it's, how is it possible that we have an industry of people who buy coffee all want to pay farmers more?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Like, you can do it. You are in the position to do it. But it's actually not that simple.
No.
Because it's not as easy when you're running a business to just cut someone the fattest check possible. There's other things to balance. And I don't know. That's just one piece of it. I'm sure it's hairy
Absolutely.
for a million different reasons, but I'm more asking the question: if everybody wants to pay farmers more,
What do we
why
do?
isn't everybody paying farmers more?
Yeah, well, that's, I think, a big problem with our industry in general is there's a lot of great ideals without diving into how we actually might do the things that we think are awesome.
And I agree. It sounds like a great idea, but
Obviously.
when you're throwing it around like that and
Pay
have no
everyone more.
intention,
Well, right.
of,
I mean, yeah,
no
well,
intention of
Including
working
your
on it,
employees.
Pay
it's
everyone
just
more.
just a trope, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, yeah, pay your employees more. It's like,
I agree.
okay,
That'd be great.
you own the business, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Or there's other avenues available to you as well. It's like, if you believe in a world where someone can make a career out of specialty coffee and you have this perfect vision and you think that it's completely doable, you should do that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you should
Pursue
take a
it
step
properly.
forward. And I'm not saying that businesses should treat people poorly or there's, any of that. I'm just saying, if you believe in this world and feel like it's that simple or at least feasible, like, go ahead.
Bring the heat.
We own a business. There's nothing special about us. We're just a few guys. Like,
Trust me, dude, we're just a few guys.
It's like, we don't come from anywhere with shit tons of money or anything like that. We're just like, it's about as
Also true.
average as it could be. So I'm just like, yeah, go. I want to see it. I'll
Yeah.
come.
No, I would
I'll
definitely
give you
come.
my
I'll come
money.
Support.
I would rather give you my money than somebody else. If you have that kind of vision and want to do that, let's go. Like,
Absolutely.
let's fucking go. So I'm just like,
I will back you and show up. That'd be fun.
yeah, that would be fun. So it's like, I'm just kind of, I wonder if social media has just blunted the way we talk about things.
Maybe.
You know,
I mean, probably.
I'm for
It makes
sure.
it easy
The
to
answer
say
is
things
yes.
without having to back it up.
My
Yeah,
name's
but if-
Gift.
Yeah, right. So if you engage like that, on a regular basis for a long time, and then you come to these in-person conversations, that's how you're loaded up to communicate. Yeah, pay farmers more. Yeah, okay. Pay your employees more. Yeah, like, do better. I'm like, okay. Well, that's the start. Like, let's talk about how. Let's
Right,
talk about
that's
where
like-
this goes. Like, what are your ideas? What do you want to bring to the table?
Is it worth my time to take 8 hours of my day to explain how business works to someone that doesn't have any idea how it works?
Well, I think it's on them to say,
Or
I want to pay farmers more. Here's how I think I can do it. Like, here's how I think I can create a program that goes all the way from A to Z. Because in reality, if you want to pay farmers more, you're going to have to move X amount of more coffee or charge a premium to the consumer or
yeah.
build a
be a
something,
model of some
something,
It's all just math.
something compelling. I mean, it's math and culture, right? It's like the yes, you need the math for sure, but like,
Yeah, part of it.
what's the hook that makes people want to engage in the math of why would I spend
Yeah,
$3
belief
more
in
dollars
culture.
here than down the
Exactly.
street,
Yeah.
right? So, but it's like, I want to hear ideas, not just taglines.
I
that
think that's
sound
the
good.
challenge.
And I'm wondering if maybe just because we're just fucking tweeting each other or what do? We X each
Xing?
other. We're X.
is that kiss? Is that kiss?
Just
Did
XO,
you guys
XO.
kiss?
Hugs or
Yeah, I don't
X's
know what it
hugs?
is. It
I don't
hugs.
know.
O's hugs, dude.
Oh, okay.
X's is kisses.
I like the idea of a debate though, like a well
Oh, I think it's great.
moderated debate
Yeah.
panel. I thought about we should host a panel here.
We, I
do you
think there's
think?
this thing as well that
Think we should
we
invite some people?
inadvertently have found ourselves in, which is that we've sat in a lot of different seats in the coffee business. And because of that, we've seen things that a lot of people just haven't, right? They've been maybe in the industry for a long time, but maybe they haven't sat in all these different places and observed and had conversations. And so a lot of what they're learning is often secondhand or it's, read and becomes way far to the idealist side versus the brass tack side. And then you can get a really big opinion on something. And I totally was guilty of doing this in my own way when I was younger, right? You think you understand how something works with the information you have. You're all, this is not adding up because you're not privy to the full picture at all. And that's part of the problem is you're not privy to the whole picture. So, case in point in our company, we're trying to be more transparent to help people understand it to start so that there's less surprises. But when you're not privy and it's not adding up, then you start to make up and project what you think might be happening and why. And so I hear, and maybe I told you this too, even though it's a parody account, like that 50% Arabica, right? They're
Pretty funny, actually.
it's super funny.
Yeah.
It's super funny. And like almost all the time I'm laughing, but then they posted this one recently that I'm just like, man, either they are just trying to poke the bear or they don't understand because they haven't sat in these chairs as well. But it was like a business owner opens another cafe but doesn't pay, and I think they were going too far, doesn't pay even minimum wage, which is like ridiculous, but doesn't pay us more, who's leadership team here more. And I'm like, well, like when you open a new cafe, you typically take on a shit ton of debt and you set up a cafe that is supposed to make money for itself and its staff. And usually that staff is inclusive of 1 to 2, maybe even 3 new leaders. So somebody's actually getting promotions in your company and you're providing for more people. And we'll just say if everybody is already getting paid in a proper wage and not, sitting in the below minimum wage and like unfairly.
Right.
It actually makes a lot of sense why you can't afford to pay people more across the board, but you did actually give 2 to 3 people raises and set them up for potentially a career path. And long term, again, after you pay off your debt, after you do what you need to do, you have this invested cafe that will, begin to hopefully make good money for your company and provide. But it's just like, that's a huge, and there was so much affirmation like, oh yeah, that's it. And I'm like, I'm not going to write anything here because this is coming from a place that I used to sit in a long time ago where you clearly don't understand how business metrics work in that way.
And I totally get that. And that's a conversation that we've had
tons of times
with
in the
our
past.
team.
Yeah.
And why would you understand? Or maybe you don't want to understand.
Well, maybe, honestly, I don't think people talk about it. If we're honest, like I didn't understand that's, even though now I sit here and I'm like, well, that's pretty obvious. Maybe if you study, it's not always obvious how it works.
It's obvious once you're on
Only
the
because
inside.
you're doing it.
But it's not obvious,
There's
right?
no
You
where
think
people
you have
like,
a lot of money.
Yeah, nobody's like sitting around outside
Thinking
of
like,
running a business of
like,
knowing
oh, I took
how
out-
running a business really works.
Right.
Right.
A $500,000 loan, and so now I'm in debt for $500,000. I built it out.
You got your loan payment, your
and
interest
yeah,
payment.
Yeah, and now
well,
you're.
I think the key. Sorry, I
No, it's
interrupted
good.
you
That's
guys.
all. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
that's
Like-
all the stuff that adds up.
The key is this. You have and you said this. You have a business that's running.
Yeah.
And that business in the perfect world is paying for itself.
Yeah.
And a little bit extra.
Right. Putting some money aside for the future.
But we all know coffee shops relatively low margin business.
Mhm.
If you want to get rich, not the best way to do it for sure.
Or be
So-
super, super busy.
If you're going to open a new location, and let's say you're built out depending on where you live,
We call it $200,000 to $300,000 maybe as an
Yeah, I
average
mean,
across
it's
the world.
probably 2 to 3, maybe up to 5, depending on where
Yeah.
you're at. It's not like there's $250,000 just sitting in a bank account somewhere. That money doesn't actually exist. That's the
Mhm.
money that you're talking about, where we
You
go
gotta
and
find
get
it.
the loan
Mhm.
for that. And then the loan is. I was talking to someone about the SBA loans the other day. One of our guests in here, Josh, because he was like, "Oh yeah, you guys don't need money. You're probably flush." I was
Yeah,
like, "Well,
everybody thinks that.
it's a
dude.
lot different than it looks."
Isn't that
And
interesting?
he had a little bit of experience investing in some business, but they started at cash. And I was like, "Oh yeah, with us in the SBA process, it's really interesting." So basically, Charles has the magical work of lining up these categories and attaching them to certain amounts of money,
Mhm.
right? We're going to need X amount of money for our espresso machine. We're going to need X amount of money for whatever food stuff we have, X amount of money for our construction build out. All these things are lined because the
Accounted for.
loan is backed by the government. They want to make sure that it's as airtight as possible. So if we got a loan for $500,000, we can't even just spend that $500,000 on whatever we want.
No.
We have a certain percentage that's very small where we can move things around that just
Mhm.
helps account for error. Like, oh, we actually need this
Right.
Extra piece of machinery
Yeah, we
here.
forgot about this.
But it's not very big.
Mm-mm.
So it's not like extra money that we can pocket or give to other people or invest in other
No,
things.
no,
it's all allocated
like,
toward
tracked
that
super
project.
tight.
And we have to send them. Dude, it was crazy. I remember it's like,
Like with Nico or
well,
whatever going.
when we were opening Portola, because
Mhm.
I was like, oh yeah, they'll give us a check. And it's like, no, we have to figure out, even though we got the loan, how to fucking buy this shit and then send them the receipts
Yeah.
to get a reimbursement
Reimbursement.
for the thing.
Mhm.
So there's even more cash out for these little things.
Right. And you're not making the money back yet.
Yeah,
until you're
it's just
open.
wild. So it's not like there's all this extra money and even if they're, well, sorry,
And often a cafe. Oh, you go because
No,
I'm gonna say
you go
often
ahead. I got
I'm gonna
excited.
say often when you open a cafe, it doesn't make money.
You're
right
not
away.
losing money.
Right.
Or
You're not
making
making
money
money
for
right
6-ish
away,
months,
right?
we'll call
Yeah.
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's great. 6
And
months would
6
be
months
great.
actually is good. Yeah,
you know,
no, actually, absolutely. I mean, if you're making if you're positive in 6 months, that's really good in most businesses that are
Yeah.
startups.
right?
Yeah, if
so,
you can get to break even in
Break
6
even.
months.
That's a good goal. So totally, like,
yeah, and I
you're
think
just losing money for the very most part for a while.
yeah. So there's not any extra money, and it's completely irresponsible to do something for the entirety of the business that isn't sustainable. And we've talked
Mhm.
about this ad nauseum, but it's like every business has a certain set of baseline metrics associated with it. You know,
Mhm.
lawyers on average make more money than baristas on average because their services command a higher wage.
Yeah.
So it's not just like you can say like, I really love baristas, I'm throwing all kinds of money at them, and then in a year you just go out of business. That doesn't do anybody any
Yeah,
good.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, it's not
that doesn't help you
sustainable.
further the mission that you're trying to bring to the world, because that's how I see our business. It's not just this money machine. It's like we have something that we want to share with the world, and we want to keep that going as long as possible in the best way possible.
Mhm.
So it would be irresponsible to do
Absolutely.
just dumping money. So
Yeah.
but yeah, these are great
I
conversations.
mean, just to stamp it even twice, just in case it didn't land, that 6 months where you're not making any money, you're still paying the entire staff, including those leaders, their wages. You're not paying them, just in case that was not like hyper clear. So, to that little meme that was like a jab, you're still providing something in a direction for growth for your team while your company is actually at a lot of risk. And obviously, you
'cause
don't
you're, like,
do it without
promoting
believing.
somebody that wasn't like a leader, right? That wasn't like a team leader
That's
before.
what my point would
right?
be, right? Is
Yeah.
like you, and maybe also you've hired and provided jobs for, call it 5 to 8 other employees that weren't working for your company before, and most likely promoting, like hopefully 2 to 3 from inside, which not every company does that. So I understand there's some wiggle room there. So our company would do it. So
Yeah, we'd have
when I think about myself and I see a thing like that, I'm like, I'd like people to be able to see a different perspective than just what your person thought too. Like,
absolutely, yeah.
well, look at this roastery you're sitting in. You guys are freaking rich and killing it. And it's like, not yet. We are paying off loans and providing opportunities for ourselves and others for sure. But like,
And
we're
then-
not there yet.
I mean,
And that's good because this job is awesome.
even I'm super stoked to do this. Like,
Yeah.
this is great. This is the best job I've ever had. So
same.
let's fucking keep it rolling. I'm stoked. And
I just got a cocktail at work, you
Well,
guys. Okay.
I mean, some of these behind the scene things are really interesting, and I don't know, maybe it's because we don't get to talk about them that
Exactly.
much, but they're just really interesting tidbits that nobody thinks about. And
So that's what SCA did for me.
so some
There's
of the other ones are,
Meaningful stuff.
what happens anytime you go out on that limb
Mhm.
and you take on a loan or you sign a lease and you spend money. We like to think that it's a surefire thing, but it's just like any other investment where it can go sideways.
Mm.
And we've had that happen to us. We signed a lease that
Didn't work out.
didn't work out. And
Yeah.
it's just like,
We're still on the hook for that
How
lease
much-
until we're not.
well, yeah, like, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about it or if you care. Like, it's like, how much money do we pay every month to just nothing because we made a mistake that we,
Until you
we're
fix
trying
it.
to fix?
We're on the hook for 5 years. How about that? Until somebody else takes
It's like
over. as a
thousands of
sublet.
dollars every
Yeah,
month that
thousands of dollars
that
every
just
That's
month.
the way to do
goes
it.
to the nothing.
Back
you
to
know?
when you guys were making jokes about thousands of dollars to Jared the other week. Remember that? Oh, thousands of dollars.
Wait, what?
When we were talking, I think it was on the podcast.
Thousands
of dollars.
Oh, the farmer's market.
Yeah.
How much money can we make at the
Don't worry,
farmer's
guys.
market?
We're putting that
Thousands of
We're
dollars.
making that project anyway. Could we use them? That project's on hold till next year, guys. Don't worry.
We can't do the farmer's market because of our lease. 'cause
It's
it's thousands of
thousands
dollars.
We have thousands of
Anyway, that's
dollars going
just
Maybe
a
the
quick
farmer's market
throwback.
could pay for our lease. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
It's
yeah,
cool.
stuff. But truthfully, that's what SCA brought to the table. Is there's a lot of things that I think people are interested in. Some probably know more than they're letting on. Don't get me wrong. And then a lot of conversation that I'm like, we could share a shit
Yeah.
ton, and it would be valuable.
I think it's valuable.
And it's valuable either way.
It's valuable
don't
in
get me
so
wrong.
many ways because I think the deeper the understanding, the more well-formed the bridge between that employee-employer relationship, the better everything gets.
That's a fact.
Like
100%.
the higher level of well-placed empathy.
Both
you know,
ways.
for both
Yeah.
ways. I think that's one of our strengths is that we haven't forgot what it feels like to be on the other side of that relationship. And you see people that forget it and they just don't give a shit about the people that work for them, or they're just like, how's it going? Oh, business is fine, but these fucking kids can't do shit. And it's just like, oh yeah,
Millennials, dude.
right. It's like that's like the most unproductive attitude ever. Shame on you. Like, you know what I mean? That's not good.
That's not
And your
helping
family.
No,
anyone.
it's not helping anybody. And
Shame.
the other way around too. It's not like I'm sitting here saying, "Oh, poor me as a business owner." I don't feel that way at all. I feel really grateful for what we have. It's awesome. But it is helpful to understand some of the challenges that come with that and these quirky things that we have to go through. So, like, yeah.
Definitely go through quirky things and
Yeah.
different seasons of random quirkiness.
Yeah, and building that bridge is something I think is great. And it's
Mhm.
especially too if someone, because rewind, we're just people working in the coffee industry as baristas, as trainers, working at NGOs or whatever. It's not like we're born business owners. So if we would have known a lot of, just me personally, I can't speak for you guys, but if I would have known half of the things I know now, if there was a podcast like this that I could listen to, where it's like, hey, this shit's kind of weird about opening a business. So just, the more you know, boom, star goes across
Yeah,
the
it
screen.
does.
Like, that's
LeVar
great.
Burton
Like,
drops in.
because I bet a bunch of the people that are listening to this have things that they want to do and are going to break out of wherever they are and just pursue something awesome.
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah,
Which is rad.
Yeah, that's a big thing I miss about SCA is just having the conversations with the people who come up and talk to us about like how they've opened a business
Mhm.
and listen to the podcast and just,
Absolutely.
like, what they got from it and their experience.
Mhm.
You know,
I mean,
as
the
a
Valor
business
guys,
owner.
They were there, and they have their own podcast now, and that's kind of, for lack of a better term, like on the heels. They were starting their business, learning what we were doing from us.
I watched their clips. It looks
they're rad.
nice too.
Good dudes, fun guys, and yeah, we were supposed to play basketball. They stayed at a hotel, just the minor sidebar. Chicago's at these crazy hotels. Their hotel had a full basketball court at it, indoor.
Sounds awesome.
Let's go.
That's like, I think that's
And I think that's a thing in
cold
Chicago.
weather thing.
Yeah, maybe. And
Uh,
I guess because they have so many, the talk was they have so many conventions there that some of these hotels cater to like trying to keep you there and give you opportunities to do cool stuff. So it had not only that, it had like racquetball and maybe some like random stuff too. But yeah, they're like,
Michael
you gotta
Jordan.
come hoop because one of their dudes is tall and actually hooped back in the day for show.
You're all,
Come out and play City League, dude. I need
fuck you up,
a big for
dude.
summer. Shout out.
Can I bring in a ringer here?
Yeah, dude. It's not always one ringer. Sorry, I sidebarred us, but yeah. Anyways, great people.
No,
the
that was-
podcast picking up. Yeah, those guys were killing it as well. And same thing. Chris DeFario. He's the shop. We got to hang out a little bit and talk offline, and just it's great. I mean, that's the thing about SCA is you see people. And then the more you're in this industry and the more you share, the more you get to kind of break off and have deeper and different conversations than just coffee related ones. And I think that's valuable and fun. And it's great to see everybody.
Hey everyone, that's the podcast for the week. Thanks so much for listening. If you heard something that inspired you, let us know, or tell a friend. These are the types of connections that are the most important to us and that we seek to create every day. If there's something you heard and you want to know more about, send us an email to podcast@catandcloud.com or head to our website, catandcloud.com/podcast, and let us know. While you're on our site, check out everything we have to offer. Dive deep into one of our single origin coffees or pick up a little treat for yourself. We have something for everyone, so check it out. Also, find us in the usual places, YouTube, Instagram. We're always there sharing amazing things. All right, that's it. Thanks everyone for being awesome. We'll be back next week.